So this COVID-19 anti-retaliation law that we're talking about, and the example that you just gave about raising the minimum wage for city workers within the city of Philadelphia, these are examples of the city of Philadelphia and Philadelphia City Council in particular taking the lead and being at the forefront of these worker protections for the folks who are here in the city. What we know about the state of Pennsylvania, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, is that it's not just Philadelphia, right? And down in Harrisburg, we know that between the state Senate and the state House, there are Republican majorities currently. And there are certain headwinds that lawmakers on the Democratic side are running into when they're trying to pass legislation that are trying to protect workers and elevating workers' wages and those types of things. So here in Philadelphia, what kind of changes do you see that we can make by city council where we can do it here without having to deal with those headwinds that are in Harrisburg as it relates to the whole Commonwealth?
As you know, that's always a challenge. In Philadelphia, we are very much opposed to the preemption bills that Harrisburg has put in place. Even on plastic bag legislation that we introduced that, the state was able to put into the fiscal code a preemption bill that we're not able to enforce. So we're going to try to fight that in court eventually. But I think what we need to understand is the things that we can do, let's do and let's lead. Let's lead and let's show people the world's not going to end if you have this bill in place. And actually it becomes a better place for both its citizens and really the employers. What better place do you have retention wise if you treat people fairly, if you pay them well? How many times do you see people who constantly lose workers because either they're paid below a family sustaining wage or they're not treated fairly. So I think if you put those things in place and almost say, guys, try this out and see how it works for you. And then they realize, you know what, we're not training people as often. People aren't leaving. We're retaining our workers. They're better workers. They appreciate us. We appreciate them. And it actually builds a better community. It's almost like we did with building community groups within our cities for political reasons. But what I think is the city, there's certain things that we do that we need state enabling legislation on. We tried, doing legislation with guns and, went to the courts and the courts ruled that, the state had authority over the gun laws. We can try and push things to a certain level, maybe knowing that some of these laws may be challenged. And if challenged, we probably wouldn't win. But I think that's why these election processes, and I said about local elections earlier, are so important, is because your local state reps, your local state senators, they're the ones, again, you reach out to. They're the ones who should be picking the points that are so important to you and advocating for them in Harrisburg. But unless we have a majority of folks that are willing to work with us, let's look at the other areas who have the same feelings as we do and incorporate those feelings into those elections. Because I worked for the state for 25 years. I know what the state thinks. When I go outside of Philadelphia, they would say, oh my God, you're from Philadelphia. They would tell you how terrible you were and how terrible Philadelphia was. They take all our money. And I said, fine, here's what I would tell them. Let us keep all our tax dollars. Keep everything we give to the state. I said, you'll have no schools in Wyoming County. You'll have no roads over in Adams County. I said, you won't have anything. You want to take all, you saying we take all the money. So, but we know that if we challenge the other counties to join us, that's when we get more influence. Because if not, they're always going to say that's Philadelphia, and they just use Philadelphia as a beating stick. And we'll say that Philadelphia is always out there to get stuff for their own. So I think the best way to do this is to join with other surrounding counties or like-minded like us, and to make sure that they join us in this fight, because then we have a stronger voice. And I think that's what we haven't done in the past. I think we're starting to do that now. In the future, if we could get other counties to have laws like we did with the protection laws for COVID, and then all of a sudden the state figures, we better do our own law because they're going to end up doing all their laws and we're not going to be able to keep track of what counties have what laws. So if we could force them that way, to me, it's a benefit, and make it their idea and have a better law for our working people and working families, then to me, it's a good thing.